Bayer, I am super pumped that you are here today because your message can really help people where they currently are, frankly, more than anything right now. We are in an absolute shit show of stress and strife and confusion, and people need some help and they need some guidance. So that's why we're having you on the show today. So officially, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Rob. And is it Murgatroyd?
You got it.
That, by the way, that's the best last name ever.
So what I'd like to do with you today is I'd like to rewind the clock a bit and maybe take you back to Fordham. You remember that time in Fordham? Can you tell us the story of how you went from a predetermined recruit on a basketball team to somebody that fell off and got involved in drugs? Maybe we could start there.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, I as they say, it's a drug-a-log. So,
I've never heard that.
Yeah, it was a drug-a-log and I was a garbage can. You could put anything in me and I'd be pretty satisfied, So, I grew up, I know, my brother, he's tall, he's 6'8", I'm shorter, 6'5", but was pretty good at basketball, struggled a lot in school. I was held back twice. I haven't met a lot of people who were held back twice.
It's an achievement.
When I was younger, just because very different than my siblings. Like they kind of were overachievers. I just, no matter how hard I tried, it just really, school wasn't for me. And then, I always like getting high. Like even as a kid, I just kind of like to escape. And, I think I had a lot of emotional issues, clearly, because at a very young age, I wanted to get high. I also think like life's weird, right? You're kind of, it's why you see so many kids who end up like their dad was an attorney. They become an attorney. Their dad's in real estate. They do real estate. My family are Giants. So it was kind of determined that we play basketball. Now, in hindsight, honestly, I probably would have rather done like martial arts or jiu-jitsu or like something that had a little more art form to it, in my opinion. I think this whole idea of team spirit is ridiculous. I think it's about satisfying the coach of the program. You're kind of just being of service to someone else's legacy, but blah, blah, blah. I just like getting high, and eventually I started getting into crystal meth, like anyone does, right? Any young, I'm kidding, by the way. That's a pretty rare thing.
Okay, good. I'm so glad you said I'm kidding, because I was like, oh my God, I don't know where to go with this.
Yeah.
It's like, anybody that has an elephant as a pet, you know what I'm talking about.
Yeah, like I went on the Breakfast Club, and they started just like pushing my buttons. I was like, well, have you guys ever done crystal meth? And they were like, no. And I was like, well, it's kind of, I throw that at people. It's not the most common thing that people really seem to get into as they're evolving. All right,
so I'm gonna interrupt you as we go through this because your world is your former world, I'm gonna call it, is likely going to be very confusing for some people. So I want to give you a little bit of context about who you're talking to give you a frame. Okay. I had a alcoholic dad that beat me as a kid. It was not good. It was a bad situation. And as a result of that, I'm assuming, I don't know, I never touched alcohol or drugs. Zero. I didn't have a sip of alcohol until I was 30. And to this day, I've only smoked pot twice, and that's like 2 or 3 puffs. I feel like Bill Clinton. On the other end of the spectrum, my brother has been in AA for many, many years.
Right.
Okay? So I struggle with understanding the alcoholic addict personality, even though I was around all of it. Right.
Yeah.
So for me, the question that I have is, I want to dig into the crystal meth part a little bit, because I can't imagine a situation where somebody would say to me, here's some crystal meth, give it a shot. Like, I don't understand how that first moment happens. So maybe you can take me back to that. How did that happen for you?
Well, I started doing drugs at around 15. But eventually it just became about what was available. I was uncomfortable in my own skin. This is in hindsight, right? So I did not like myself at all. I had no coping skills for anxiety. And, for me, I was destined to be something that I absolutely didn't want to be. And so drugs for me were almost like acting out or some form of relief to not be a straight male basketball player who's supposed to play college ball. Like, I'm gay. And, it's one of those things that, did I use drugs because I just hated myself for being gay? Maybe. But at the time, I just enjoyed a different reality. Like, I didn't enjoy going to high school dances. I enjoyed going to raves. I didn't enjoy hanging out and, I don't know what do high school kids do. They normally, I guess, would hang out and maybe do puzzles. I don't know what.
No, there were no puzzles. Yeah. We didn't do puzzles. We did anything that involved any kind of sexuality thing.
Yes.
Like when I think of high school, I remember, making out with Joanne Spina for 2 hours straight, where like my face would like it was just like, just like I was red face, like everything was sex for.
Yeah, and imagine if your reality is that you're supposed to be making out with a dude and you don't want to be making out with a dude. But you're like, oh, aren't I supposed to like this? So like for me, it sucked. Like I went with the homecoming queen. I was the captain of the basketball team. Like, and I'm supposed to be hooking up with chicks. And it's like, I don't want to be at these parties. Like,
got it. So for you, escaping the discomfort, for lack of a better word, probably pain's a better word, but for you, escaping that, you were actively looking for something that you can do to get out of the feeling that you were feeling.
Yeah. At the time, I didn't know it. You kind of realize it in hindsight, but at the time, you're just like, what the hell, man? Like, this sucks. Like, I'm wearing a school uniform. I'm playing basketball and I'm supposed to be into chicks. And like, you beat yourself up when you don't know what's going on with you. And, it's highly confusing. That's like, I think it's also why it's so prevalent in like an LGBT space, like with gay people, is because like we developed so late emotionally. Like I never experienced like dating in high school or even like, and where you go to meet other people is places where people get high.
Right.
Like you go to bars, you go to clubs. It's so like, I loved it at first, but then it stopped working. Like anything can get progressive where it's just like, it stops working. And for me, I was one of those that would stay up for 5 or 6 days, like, and get highly paranoid. And it just at a certain point, like no drug gets you away from the pain of hating yourself.
All right. So let's go back.
Yes.
So how long was the crystal meth period in your life?
4 years.
4 years. Okay.
Yeah.
And was that your drug of choice?
Yes.
Okay. And during that 4-year process, I've seen, and forgive these amateur questions, but I've seen like, the book, The Faces of Meth, right? You remember that book? Was it that you started to look at yourself in the mirror, didn't know who you were because you looked differently, or your teeth started rotting, or you started physically breaking down? Or what was it that was that threshold moment where you said, not another fucking day, like not another day?
Yeah.
Or were there many?
Yeah. People talk about bottoms, like it's kind of in media. They'll be like, oh, they finally hit bottom. Everyone hits so many bottoms. It's just, what's your window? Like how quick and how soon, how long is your window going to last where you're willing to go to any lengths to get better? Some windows last for an hour and you need a quick solution. Sometimes they last for a day or two. But with addicts, the window's really tight. Like their bottom hits, you got to create a solution right away. It's not one of those things that, from my experience working with thousands of people through the years, it's like, that's why everyone says sleep on it, because by the time the next day rolls around with anything, we often feel a little bit different. So for me, look, I was 90 pounds less than I am now. I was highly paranoid. I thought there was a camera in my people. I spray painted my place in New York red. My brother would come to visit me and he was spooked by me. I got him into drugs, but and I'm younger by 5 years. I think I freaked him out too. He literally we would smoke weed together because I didn't even understand, you can't do all drugs. I smoked weed every day. I didn't understand, for me, I needed to abstain. I just reached the point where I had a moment of God or clarity where I just didn't want to I knew I wasn't living a life that was congruent with what I deserve. And
okay.
Yeah.
I want to ask you something on the concept of disease.
Mm-hmm.
I'm really struggling, and I truly want to understand this.
Uh-huh.
So it's not coming from a place of I disagree with this as a statement. It's more like I don't get it.
Mm-hmm.
They say that alcoholism,
mm-hmm.
as an example, is a disease like any other disease. And yet I struggle understanding that, because if somebody has pancreatic cancer,
mm-hmm.
there isn't anything that they can do to abstain from having pancreatic cancer. I'm just struggling understanding it.
Yeah, it's a great point. There's several factors as to why, I also own a treatment center, and I've been in mental health now for over 18 years and so many capacities. So I've done so many different positions. And what I can tell you is there's a few things. One is, think about insurance coverage. So everything with insurance needs a diagnosis. It is also, what is the scale of it? And I think some of it, in my opinion, is also language. So if somebody fits a criteria of a disease, I believe you have a better shot of it getting covered by insurance and getting mandated, right? So there's that aspect, which otherwise I don't believe that treatment for people who are struggling would be as available, because insurance really doesn't want to pay for drug addicts and alcoholics to go to treatment. They avoid everything they can to pay for people, even when there's a necessity of this person could, die. The other thing is, I think it helps some people that, AA, Alcoholics Anonymous, in the big book, it's fascinating with just kind of the doctrines, the creations, right? So it was created, I don't know, I want to say 90 years ago. And so, for people with alcoholism, it really works, that language of the disease model. They call it kind of the disease model of treatment, which is still around. The thing is, now you have so many different drugs. You have so many different aspects of people wanting to numb themselves out. And I always say recovery is a loose garment. If somebody believes it's a disease and it helps them, lock on to the disease. If somebody's looking at it a little bit differently and is this is from unresolved trauma, or, I need to find God, or I need I just think everyone's so different. I think life's so complex that, to sum it up to your point as just the disease, is a little misleading. That's my opinion.
I think it's such a great answer that covers it, because I think it covers everything from why they bill it with the CPT codes for insurance company all the way to the belief that you have in the term. Your brother and I share a love for listening to Esther Hicks.
Yeah.
So is she fucking crazy or is she really channeling? Who knows? It doesn't matter to me. I don't give a shit. I feel better after I listen to her. So I don't give a shit. Okay. So tell me what a board certified or a board registered interventionist is. I have this vision of, you sitting in a room with, with a reluctant Sally that's sitting in the chair and you're saying, Sally, we need to talk. Is that kind of what that is?
Yeah. So there's a lot of professions, as you know, like that don't have licenses in mental health.
Yeah.
And the reason is, quite frankly, you can't do a lot of things you would do in the coaching world or the interventionist world through the license because it would be considered unethical. Yeah. Traveling across state lines, flying with somebody to treatment, what have you. So, I did interventions for years. And kind of the certification program is like you become a board registered interventionist. And I would fly over all over the world. And I did that for maybe 5 or 6 years. And Sally's usually a lot less happy. So the approach is a little, I'm sometimes waking Sally up. Right, and everyone's afraid of Sally. But then that steered, and I live in LA. So all of a sudden it went from like flying to Kentucky and, working with Sally to suddenly I was working with entertainers. And then my whole career completely evolved into this whole other thing. I don't know, 8 years ago or so.
All right, so let's talk about. Are you comfortable talking about some of the names that I came up with in my research about you and how you've worked with them? Is that okay to talk about?
Yeah, some of it I can't. Some of it I can't say. Like a lot of these people are called friends. Yeah. And then some of them, the interesting thing. I mean, you could say whatever, and I can respond. There's some people where like, it's fascinating. It's almost like it's yin and yang. I've had some amazing experiences and then I've had other experiences where my brother knows where like, I went to refugee camps for years in Iraq because I didn't want to work with celebrities anymore. So who you mentioned, I'll have different reactions. But
okay, so there's two that come to mind that seems to be sort of synonymous with your work. One is Demi Lovato, and the other one is Joe Jonas. Are those two okay to talk about?
Yeah, I mean, in a general way.
Okay. So, I don't want to get into anything specific. And the reason why I even mention their names to bring it up is those are people who have been public about their challenges. And because I want to, look, it's called Alcoholics Anonymous for a reason. That people want to be private about it. But at the same time, Demi Lovato has had a very public challenge with this. So, right. I guess the question is, as it relates to them, and I'm only using their name more to highlight for somebody that's in this situation, that even someone like a Demi Lovato, who could be at the peak of what is a career that somebody would look and go, oh my God, you have it all. Like you've got money, you're beautiful, you sing like a bird, right? You got everything. What the fuck is like, why are you doing this? Right. So I guess the question is, first, am I right in assuming that, that they're just like anybody else in terms of how they, find themselves in addiction? In other words, is there a difference?
So some of the clients I worked with, it's mental health and addiction. Like Joe Jonas, I was brought in when the band was breaking up and helping them all reinvent their careers. So like some of my work has been mental health. A lot more of my work has been like helping people live in their art, reinventing their careers in entertainment, crisis work with studios, stuff like that. So it's a range, but I think like, we all, need guidance, and we all need support. And I think that we all have had, I mean, who hasn't had a rough moment during COVID? I mean, like, we've all had a moment of darkness or despair, right? All of us have been in that. So I don't think the outer work doesn't imply that somebody's going to be any more content.
It's interesting because there's an illusion that we have that we're all chasing the money, or we're all chasing. If I just get the fame, if I just get the money, then everything is going to be all right. And those two examples that we just talked about prove that that's not the case. You know, so you've put together a new book, effectively called Mind Hack, right? So
One Decision.
One Decision.
My brother's Mind Hack. Yeah. So
that's right. That's right. That's where I confuse it. Tell me more about the book, One Decision. And that's where you talk about the 7 spheres. Yeah.
No. So it's all good though. Trust me. So the last book I wrote was Best Self. Yeah. And I never intended on writing a book ever in my life. And then I met Dr. Phil, and he's like, Mike, you're writing a book. Do you want to? I said, yes. And then he goes, we flew to Dallas, and that's where he introduced me to my agent. And basically, like, I thought I was going on 1 episode, and I've been on 40 now. And it's the #1 daytime television show. I mean, it's a beast. I mean, I'll go do 10 other TV press looks and 1 Dr. Phil look. So I'm the first regular in 19 years. So,
oh my God.
Yeah. So it's been like the last book made New York Times a ton. Sold 250,000 copies in just 2 years. Went #1 in other countries. And so then, like, after that book, then he's like, I'm like, what should I do next? And he's like, you need to write the next book. I'm like, oh man. And so then, I'm on a rocket ship with him. I mean, he moves so quickly. He's my mentor. So that's who I spend a lot of time with, like I did 2 episodes this week. And then, so this next book is called One Decision. As anyone who's an author, you're always kind of struggling to figure out what the heck do I want to say and how do you say it so that it's different and authentic and not copying everyone else's stuff. And so I go on a bit of a tortured ride to get to the meat of what I want to create. But really, this next book is about how one decision can change our life and figuring out how to decide out of the 30,000 decisions we make a day, like what are some easy decisions that are right in front of us that can change our lives?
Well, let's talk about that. How, we're all going through situations right now, whether you look at COVID as a spiritual thing or you look at it as a science thing, whatever it is, we're here and we're trying to figure out what the hell to do with it. And so people are being faced now with making new decisions in their life. Do I want to go back to the shitty job that I was in? I've got more friends getting divorced than I can shake a stick at, There's divorce rates are going through the roof. Suicide rates are going through the roof.
Yeah, they are. And you're right. To that point, it's interesting. So I own a treatment center called Cass Centers. It's in West Hollywood. It's an outpatient. Yeah. Since COVID, our relapse is twice as high, twice. And the people who won't come in person and just do it digitally have way lower success rate. They're already so hard to get out of the house anyways. And then our suicidal ideation has gone up like 400%. We used to have maybe 1 client or 2 clients a month. We'll get 6 or 7 now. So you're right to that point. Like, we've done a ton of research in it. It's completely, people's mindsets are going a lot darker and struggling a lot more during this period of time.
So why are people not making the one decision? Is it that they don't know which decision to take? Or is it fear that if they take the decision, it may be the wrong one?
What I've found is people don't know what decision to take. People have a belief of, if I were to say, hey, what do you most want to improve in your life today? whatever answer they give me 9 times out of 10 is not the very thing they need to improve. So this thing that they're describing to me isn't actually the low-hanging fruit that's easy. And so, that's where I like to write in a style that meets someone where they're at, that help them figure out their blind spots. So, and it's tough, right? In a book, when you're one-on-one coaching someone, it's a lot different. But, first it's figuring out what is that thing in your life that you wish was a little bit better. I mean, that's always a good starting spot. So I'm all about assessments. Let's just assess your life. And then we start to look at, okay, well, why is that thing in your life not better? And usually in that process is when we can shake out and figure out what they really need to do.
This is interesting. So you're not getting super granular in that moment. You're keeping it higher and more general, because I suppose that when you get too granular too soon and you don't know what the hell you're doing, it becomes overwhelming. So you
I can try it with you if you want.
Yeah, let's do it.
All right. So what area of your life do you want to improve? Or I could give you a rating. You could rate them, and then if that helps you clear it up quicker.
Yeah, let's do that. That would be better.
Okay, so let's say your health. 1 to 5, how would you rate it?
1 to 5?
Physical health.
4.
Okay. Your family relationships.
4.
Your finances.
I'm toggling between 3 and 4. So let's go low. Let's go 3.
Okay. Your spiritual life.
3.
Your social life.
4.
Your significant other.
So I'm going to interpret that as, I have a great relationship, but if it's okay, I'm going to interpret that as romantic.
Yeah.
And I would say 3.
You have kids?
Yeah, that's why I went down low.
Okay. So with kids, it would go lower with kids?
Yeah, because we have a 5-year-old, we have a 6-year-old. And so the reason why I rated it lower is because I love her and we spend so much time together, but I know that I could be so much more romantic, but we're just so fucking busy with the kid that it's a challenge. So that's why I rated it lower.
Okay. And your mental health?
I almost want to say 5. I don't feel any lower than that.
Got it. So what, if anything, do you wish was better of anything right now? What comes to your mind?
I wish that I was more allowing for where I am right now. In other words, I'm always looking for it to be better. And sometimes in the face of looking for it to be better, I'm not acknowledging what I currently have. And so I struggle with gratitude. And I have to make a practice of doing it because it doesn't come naturally for me, because I'm always looking at the next project I want to work on, or, it almost never seems like enough for me. I'm always looking for the next thing that I can do to be more successful.
Is that work or is that other areas too?
I think it's across the board.
Across the board.
Yeah.
And that gives you anxiety?
Yeah, I think it does. I think it does. I think it gives me, I think I have to have, because it gives me anxiety, I have to have certain things that are set up in my life to have forced breaks. Like I do 3 hours a day at the beach. I live in Hermosa, 3 hours a day at the beach, doing something, surfing, running, swimming, because if I don't have that forced break, I'll just stand there and I'll work all day. I force myself to take a few months a year off to travel Europe, because if I don't, I'll just be working all the time.
And what's the ongoing thought that pops up with this concept of, I got to get to it, I got to be going? Like, are you conscious of maybe what that thought is?
Yes, that I'm going to lose it all.
I'm going to lose it all.
Yeah.
Okay. And what does it all mean?
What does that thought mean? What was it all? I'm going to lose it all. I will. I'll be. I'll be out in the street in a cardboard box, and I'll have nothing.
Okay. And have you always had this thought?
I think so. I mean, I haven't had anybody actually take me through the thread of it, but I think there's an underlying fear that I will be penniless and alone.
Okay. And do you feel like that's the most ongoing stress in your life day to day?
Yeah.
Okay. And so what I would do with like this, right? So I create what's called the force, right? So we're just going to go through the negative force of it, which is an acronym. So where could you be fortune telling around this? That you're going to end up in a cardboard box?
Give me an example of fortune telling.
Fortune telling would be like, if I don't go do this, they're going to leave me. If I don't go make more money, I'm not going to have much.
Well, that would be one right there. If I don't make more money, I won't live. It's toggling between a cardboard box or worse, not living. In some ways, it's actually worse to not live the life that I want to live. In other words, I have a vision of what I want my life to be like. And if it feels the same to me, probably wouldn't be if I had it, but it feels the same to me that if I was out in the street and had nothing, or I wasn't able to afford the life that I wanted to live, they both feel the same to me.
But what in terms of this life, what is the life that you're saying this is, that I envision? Are you saying you're there or you're not there?
I'm saying I'm there and I'm afraid it's going to go away.
Okay. And how long have you been there?
2 years.
2 years. Okay. So you're afraid of that, this thing that you've created over time is somehow going away.
Yeah, like I got it, like I got it good. My life is good. I live where I want to live. My marriage is great. I have a great relationship with my children. My health is good. Like I feel like I'm banging away on all cylinders, but the bottom's going to drop out. Like I wake up in the morning, like, looking like is everything still good? Are we still good? Do you know what I mean? Because I'm afraid like it's going to all go away.
And let me just, do you think that this relates to growing up with an alcoholic father?
I think everything relates to that. I just don't know how I don't know how and like what I could do about it, what it really means. Like so yes, but I don't know what to say about it.
I got you. I'm just curious if that, like, this could go away. I'm out of control. Like, if that's just a feeling that you've had over time.
No, it's not like I feel like I'd wind up. Well, yeah, in some ways it is. In some ways it is. I think that I work really hard to make sure that I don't live the life that I saw as a kid. So I think that's a big driver in this. Yeah.
And what's the number one thing that makes you feel most secure?
That's a great question. What's the number one thing that makes me feel the most secure? Friendships is the thing that actually popped in my head. That's the thing that popped in my head, because I feel like with that, I can endure whatever were to happen if it did. Got it.
And would, like, your romantic partner or kids or anything like that does that help you feel secure or not?
Yeah, because in the absence of it, I'd feel massively insecure. So yes.
You would feel massively insecure.
If the wife left or the kid said, I hate you and I don't want anything to do with you. Yeah.
And that was your lowest rated area, right?
Yeah, but I rated it lowest because I know I can do so much better than I am doing. But that is not to say that I don't believe, and I think if you ask my wife, that we have an outstanding relationship and we're truly happy. I mean, really, really happy. But I know I rated myself low because I know I can do so much better in that area.
And what does better look like?
Romantic. I could be much more romantic. I spend so I spend more time on projects and the children and life than I put into the marriage than I believe I should, than I believe I could be putting in.
Okay. So if you were to do something romantically that you feel like you could do, what would that look like?
It would be pretty simple. It would be more eye contact, more conversations around her and life, as opposed to family maintenance of, did you take you get the dry cleaning or the groceries? It would be more physical in the area of romance and, more lovemaking and less, let's just, do it because we haven't done it in 3 days. It would be more.
Could it be talking to her about it? Like, and saying that
it could be. It could be, and it could be simple things like notes, flowers. It just be honestly, just putting more effort into the area.
And do you make lists every day?
I do.
Okay. Would it be okay to add something on the list that's in regards to her and romance?
Yeah. And I've done that, but I get really confused about what that looks like. And so I stand there, and I think part of it is because I feel like I don't know how to, I guess it's like when you're in the mode of making your daily lists, you're in one energy, right? Like you're in a business energy. I got to get this done, and I got to get filed my taxes and blah, blah, blah. And then when you think about that romantic thing where you're like trying to come up with it's like a different headspace. And so I'm like,
what about right now? So right now, though, the headspace, could you be in romantic headspace as we're talking?
Yeah.
There's no, you're not in the list space. So if you were to do something romantically today,
yeah,
what could that look like that you could do?
I could. First thing that came to mind is what normally comes to mind, which is when we put the kid down, instead of going straight to Netflix, sit down at the dining room table and just catch up on the day with each other. What usually happens is it's the end of a really, really long day, and my wife puts her our daughter down, and she comes up like almost half asleep because she's been lying with her, and we're like, it's sort of just the end of it seems like the worst time to have that conversation because she's like literally like passing out. But I don't know where else to do it in the day because there's, we have a kindergartner now, right? And she's home all day. There's no school. Mm-hmm. So, we're trying to I'm struggling answering the question because it's like I'm a practical guy in that regard. Like if I can schedule it, I want to know when I can do it. So I think the problem is I don't know what to do and I don't know when to do it. I think that's the problem.
I feel like, I just met you and talking to you, right?
Yeah.
But you clearly are a very thoughtful person. And even though you got my book messed up with my brothers, I still know you're thoughtful. It happens. but you're a thoughtful person. And, to me, it's like, it's deciding, like, it can be right after the podcast, 20 minutes where you're just intentionally bringing that into the mix in conversation with her or talking to her. Like, it doesn't need to be this big event. But you just, in my opinion, make one decision towards being more intimate or being more loving or changing it up. And maybe at the end of the night, you light a candle and you dim the lights where you guys are able to talk, or you do a throwback to when you guys first met and what creates that energy for you guys, or like whatever it is. But it doesn't, I believe, and the reason I asked all these questions, right, like firing off is, I believe it's incredibly important, especially for someone who grew up in an alcoholic family, to have really good communication and feel super secure and intimate in their life. And sounds like you guys have an amazing relationship. And the opportunity is to be able to do this while the kid is in kindergarten and while he's at the house. Because if you're able to do it now through all this chaos and like everything going on with COVID, you're going to be in a great spot because you're able to figure out how to do it now. And so a lot of people will go, well, I can't do it because of this reason or this reason or this reason or this reason. And then days just go by. And so to me, it's just making one decision on purpose that just betters your life. It doesn't have to be the ripple effects by doing stuff like this. From my experience working with people, is so much more great stuff happens. You know, often people will feel even less anxiety about the future when they really start to harvest, because you're telling me this, like, to me, that's your rock, right?
Yeah.
And so, you know, I'm doing my best not to end up as like Coach Mike, coach hat on, but like,
no, coach away. Like there's no rules. There's no rules.
Yeah.
Part of the beauty of podcasts is that you can just do whatever the fuck you want.
Yeah. But
you know, we're not like Dr. Phil's producer going like, we got to go to a commercial.
Oh, no shit. Right. Yeah. Or I got to have a 20-second breakthrough and
solve this person's entire life.
It's crazy too. You know, I've never met these people, and literally I'll be on stage. I'll have 2 minutes and I have to like create it's a lot. And these are wild people, you know, they want to help, some of them. But I think like that's really what it comes down to. Like when you talk to me about, this is my impression, is you're talking to me about not being in the moment and future tripping and, oh my gosh, this could all go away.
Yes.
But the most important thing in your life that matters is your, you know, romantic partner and your kid.
Yep.
And that is actually the biggest rock in your life because you're with them all the time. And so that, if you made a decision towards, you know, eye contact or being more intentional, and it doesn't have to be perfect. It's not like it has to be like a business plan. It's just, you're bringing it up to me. So somewhere in your brain, you're like, oh, I could be doing more of this. And I'm just reinforcing the thing. Whereas before, I'm saying like we ended up where that's where I'm suggesting. Normally we would go, okay, well, I just need to, you know, realize that business isn't going away and I'm here to stay and do self-affirmations. And what I'm saying is your decision you can make that's low-hanging fruit is your romantic partner.
It's really good. So in the book that I fucked up, is there a process in the One Decision book that will walk us through the way that you just did with me?
Yeah, that's what I do.
Okay. And is it out yet?
It's December 29th.
All right. You picked a very interesting time to do a pandemic book launch.
The reason why, because Target and so I'm on every video while I'm Target to the 29th of December, or I could not be and have it come out January, whatever. And I was like, are you kidding me? I could be on every Target wall, you know? So like, you know, and initially the release was in October. And so, you know, I'm trying to make magic happen. I appreciate you having me come on here too, because, you know, it's helpful for me and it's nice to know you because I live in LA as well. So
yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. I just interviewed somebody yesterday who just had a book in Target come out the same time.
Ooh.
So this guy here, his name is Sean Stevenson. He lives in LA. He wrote a book called Eat Smarter. And it is currently in Target. So
awesome.
We had an interesting conversation around what it's like to launch a book during a pandemic. I mean, it's an interesting thing. All right, well, listen. As we start to wrap up, I want to get people to know you a little bit. So I'm going to ask you some questions that are going to be weird, but I don't sense that you care. So let's just roll with it.
No, I don't.
What's on your nightstand?
Earbuds for like, you know, so I don't hear my dog snoring.
Yeah. The sound blocking things.
Yeah. And a bottle of water.
Bottle of water. What's one rule that you have for yourself that you'll never break?
I won't steal.
What's an unusual or an absurd thing that you love?
Magic the Gathering. I still enter tournaments.
Say that again?
Magic the Gathering. It's a card game. It's like Dungeons and Dragons.
I've never even heard of it.
Magic. I mean, listen, it's
Is it like Crimes Against Humanity? Like that kind of thing?
Yeah, it's kind of like this role-playing card game. I'm also extremely into wizards. Like I have wizards all over my body. I have wizards all over my house. So you've got a one decision box coming your way. You'll see a wizard on the box. So.
Oh, is it coming? I can't wait to get it. Okay, cool. Well, now that I will know that you actually wrote a book. What is one goal that you had for yourself that you're like, when I get this goal, my fucking life is going to be amazing. And then you got it and went, yeah, that didn't do it.
I thought you were going to say, what's a goal that I really want? And I think it's going to be amazing. What's a goal that, whatever, making your first million or many years ago, or, when you think you can becoming a New York Times bestselling author, like I remember I cried thinking, because I've worked so hard for it, changes nothing.
Changes nothing. If you could spend 1 month anywhere in the world, where would it be and why?
Oh, Brazil.
Brazil. Why?
I just went there a month ago. Well, I love the culture. I love the people. I love my publisher out there. And it's just like, it's cheap. It is so cheap. The dollar's so strong right now, sadly, for that. But
what are we talking, like Rio or
Rio or something? Like I went to Sao Paulo a month ago, but Brazil is hands down my favorite country to visit.
It's great. I did New Year's Eve there a couple of years ago.
Yeah,
actually, I did it 3 times. It's
did you dress in white?
On the beach at midnight with gladiola in my hands. Yeah. It was something else. I absolutely loved it. With every new level comes a new devil. What are you currently struggling with?
Oh gosh, I struggle with, it's interesting. I struggle with TV at times. I struggle with image too, like as a public image at times, like who am I? How am I putting myself out? How do I not copy these other people? Like sometimes I'll see these people that are like coaches or certification programs and I just think they're full of shit and they've never been in the trenches or helped anyone. And I just get annoyed. And sometimes I'm like, am I jealous or am I like, just don't, because of where I come from, it's like, if you haven't had someone try to hurt you or kill themselves, you're not, it's really good to talk about. And so I struggle with like, how do I present myself to the world authentically and where I don't need to be perfect and always be like some beacon of strength. You know what I mean? So
I bet because sort of cloaked in your image is the answer man that's going to solve everything. And that cape can get very heavy, I'm sure.
But I think cape.
Yeah, it's a heavy cape. I think Dr. Phil would be a good guy to ask that question, though.
Because, trust me, I have a lot.
Because he's. Have you ever had the chance to meet Oprah through him?
No, she came to do the podcast of his, and everyone shut up, and I didn't.
Why? Just one of those things, or you didn't want to?
I don't know. I've always kind of been like, I don't know. With him, like, I don't want him ever feeling like I'm taking advantage of opportunities. And also, like, I don't know, if I'm Oprah and I'm having to meet so many people, like, she need another guy, like, trying to take a photo with her. I'm like, if the universe wants me to meet her, like, I don't know, I'll create some cool shit and she'll want me. But if not, like, there's so many people in this world. So I just don't like, and I've attracted a lot of great stuff. Like I've been pretty successful without forcing my way into meeting people. I know a lot of people would, there's no one I would do that with.
Yeah, I got it. Well, that's what makes you the magic that you clearly are. So I love that. What would your friends say is one of your superpowers?
My God, they would say thinking outside the box, probably, or creative solutions.
What do people never ask you, but you wish they did?
What do people ask me?
What do people never ask you? You like, nobody ever asked me this question, but they really should ask this question.
Oh my God. I mean, by the way, these are great questions. You know, they really are great questions. I mean, these are actually the best questions I've had on a podcast. You know, like normally it's just, you know, it's all over. But gosh, I don't know if I really wish. I don't know if I really wish anything. I'm more like, okay, well, is this helpful for their platform? I don't even like selling shit. You know, like I was more excited to be able to meet you because I was listening to your podcast and you're friends with my brother and you had a cool last name. And so I was like, okay. But I didn't have in my head like, oh my, here's my move, you know, like I don't.
Well, like, I'll give you an example. Okay. So I just did, do you remember the Jamaican bobsledding team?
By the way, you should speak in my empowerment group.
I'm happy to.
It's fun too. It's fun. Okay. It's on Tuesdays. Anyways, okay, yes, I remember the Jamaican bobsled team.
All right, so I just interviewed the guy. You know, the Cool Runnings. The movie Cool Runnings was about, right? And I asked him that question, and he said, you know, everybody always asks me about, you know, being on the Jamaican bobsledding team and what was that was like, and then the story around that. But nobody ever asked me, because now he goes around the country speaking on, because he was also an Olympic champion in other sports, track and field. Yeah. And nobody ever asked him about the bronze medal that he got in track and field, or nobody ever asked him about him being a captain in the Jamaican army, or nobody. And there's all these questions that nobody ever asked him about because everybody always asks him about that. So that's what's kind of behind that. Okay. A couple more questions. What book have you reread the most?
Lordy. There's a book by K. Ratfield Jameson called An Unquiet Mind. It's about bipolar disorder, manic depressive disorder. She's just fucking awesome. Excuse me, I don't can cuss. Try to get on my podcast. I mean, some of these people, you can't even reach them through snail mail. But I probably read that one quite a bit. I thought it was really good.
All right. And the last question is a little bit of a change up. What one question would you like to ask me?
I'm curious, in the last 2 years, what was the thing that started making you a lot of money?
It wasn't so much that it was a lot of money. It was that what's that?
Lies. No, I'm kidding.
No. It wasn't that. It was, I did start making more money, but I know what's behind your question, or at least I think I do. What was it that in 2 years ago, that was the thing that sort of changed it? And I was a chiropractor for 25 years. Wow. And the last 10 of those years, if somebody asked me, you know, to help, if one more person said their neck or back hurts, I was going to shoot myself. I couldn't take it anymore. And so I finally decided that I wanted to do what I wanted to do, which is I do events. That's what these pictures are, all around the world with people. And I do the podcast. We've got some courses that we put together. I moved from Atlanta to Hermosa Beach. I learned surfing. And so I 2 years ago, radically changed everything in my life. And I wake up in the morning so happy and so content that everything that I dreamed of having, which is getting out of Atlanta, getting out of chiropractic, doing a job that I love to be doing, podcasting, traveling around the world with entrepreneurs, it's all finally fucking here. I got it.
That's awesome.
I don't want it to go away. So a friend of mine said to me, she had a similar situation.
You know what I was thinking though? That's so interesting that you talk. I mean, because you don't want to go away, and it's funny because it's like, to me, like when I'm just hearing all that, right? I'm actually like, well, why wouldn't it even get better?
That's so crazy you said that. I got chills. I'll tell you why. Because I was just with a friend of mine and I said the same thing to her. She said, I had a similar situation in my life and somebody, do you know Byron Katie?
Yeah.
Okay. Said to her.
You do the wheels and.
Yeah. Well, I don't know anything about her, but she said this statement to her. She said, ask yourself, how good can I take it? So every morning, ask yourself, okay, this is good and I love it, but how good can I really take it? Bring more good on. Let me see how good I can take it. And I liked that for some reason. I don't really know why, but I like that. It felt like it was a twist on me feeling like it was going to be taken away. It was more me putting focus on how much gooder can I take it?
Right.
Do you know, is that
yeah, for sure. Like you think this is the max when it's not.
There you go. There you go.
Like you don't even know what else is coming your way. And you also know, because you're obviously clearly understand somatic in the body, and you also know that you don't want to put out into the universe this constant fear. And you're like, how do I flip this thing around? And I really think it's like, that's actually really exciting that you've accomplished and felt the last 2 years what a lot of people never feel. And it's proof that you can keep having more of it, if not more.
Dude, you are really, really good at what you do. You're one of these people. I've only come across a handful of people like this who you instantly you instantly love. There's a love energy that is inside of you. That I'm being very honest with you, and no bullshit. There's a love energy inside you that you got that thing. You got that thing. So I'm really glad that I got a chance to know you.
Thank you, Rob. I appreciate it. You got that thing too.
You're welcome, baby. Well, listen, as soon as this thing's out, I'll get the book. I'm usually known for my research, but I know what happened. I asked my assistant to send me the information, and he confused the Bayers, and he sent me the Bayer book, but it was your brother's mind hack and not your one.
We are oil and vinegar, the two of us.
I see that. And so I had all of these questions around his book, but I should have known better because I
honestly, I don't care. And really, it's cool. I've been in this spot too, where it's like, you know, as I've entered the coaching world, right? I'm kind of a loner in a lot of ways. And like, you know, in this coaching world, there's like this, like, who fucks with you and who doesn't type of thing I've noticed.
Yeah.
Like, oh, this is, and like, so I actually like, it gives me good humility, man. Like sometimes when people don't know, you're like, it's all good. Like, it's all good, you know?
Thank you. Thank you.
Because your intention isn't wrong. It's like when other people are just like, it's like, you know.
Well, thank you for being on the show today. Let's stay in touch with each other.
You got it, buddy.